whatever milestones that Black people make against hate, it ends up benefiting all the other people of color. I can't see what his end game is. The Republican Party is the party of racism, is the party of white supremacy, is the party of hate. This is wrong, and it needs to stop.
Everybody wants to go back and drag that piece of history up, but they don't want to go back and deal with what their ancestors did to the indigenous people and to Black people in this country. You got to go. And you got billionaires talking about going to space and Jeff Bezos. Go! Never come back. I hope you get lost. This man has lost his mind.
Boom! Come on, girlfriend. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I host the only online conversation in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And being part of that collaboration last year, I was able to be part of a team that reached out to over 100,000 fathers around the world. So really appreciate that. Never take that for granted. It is, I have to say, you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. It's actually a little bit different. It's a Saturday afternoon. Now, usually we are broadcasting live on Saturday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern time with these two wonderful ladies. But today we have to go a little bit earlier. I have something I need to attend to. So I said, you know what? I could do a replay, but I said, no. Let's see if we can do something live on the Saturday. And the worst thing to worse, that if you're used to us seeing us on the 9 o'clock show, you can actually watch the replay. Just if you're following me on Twitter or following me on Facebook, you can click and watch the replay, or I just may put a replay up for 9 o'clock this evening. Don't know it yet, but we'll get it done. Let me stop bantering and bring on the two wonderful ladies that I love to call friends onto the platform. So first off, we got Aisha K. Staggers, and we also got Jill D. Jones. What's going on, ladies?
Good morning.
Hey.
Yeah, really, that's weird. That's weird. Yes, good morning.
It's bright and early for me here.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is good.
Yeah, what's
Caught
going
me
on?
up out of bed.
What's been going on? How you doing?
Active. It's good. That's how are you feeling, Aisha? Since the dentist.
Yeah.
Feeling much better.
Yeah, we missed you last week.
Better.
We missed you.
2 teeth gone.
Wow.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah.
Hi. Well,
Yeah, I had a dry socket earlier this week, so I was pretty miserable.
Ooh.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound good at all.
No.
Ouch. But you are beginning to feel better?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, that's good news. That is good news. Well, last week, we didn't have Yishan, but Jill and I chopped it up for an hour and a half, which I didn't think. You know what? Looking in hindsight, I didn't. With Jill, I could have went on for a day and a half. Jill had a lot going on, from her thoughts about music and women to this to that. It was just all going down. But thank you, everyone, for checking us out last week, and we did you proud, Aisha. We did you proud.
Yes, you were missed, though.
I didn't realize that you were going to have a whole show.
Do you think I did?
Neither did we.
It just grew.
Unraveled.
Yeah. I like that word. It unraveled.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. But you know what? Many of the regulars were there, and they were engaging, and a lot. In fact, a number of new people were on it, and it was just a lot of fun. But we're glad to have you back. It's been 2 weeks since we've really taken a look at what's going on in America and the world. But let's start it off. The first thing that we haven't had a chance to talk about it. U.S. Senate confirms Katangi Brown Jackson to Supreme Court, making her the first Black woman to serve as a justice.
It's amazing.
Happy?
Yes, very.
Why?
But it's amazing because she's the first ever to be nominated. I mean, Republicans did try to gaslight and say that they had a black female candidate. She was never a nominee ever. The one that they're talking about. But it's just the fact that she really held her head on during those questions, ridiculous questions like, can you define female? How religious are you? It, really held it together and just really stuck to the record was an amazing feat in and of itself, because I was screaming at the TV.
Why?
I mean, I know it couldn't have been me because I'm just like, it's like they had it was like going through a racist panel, and having to tolerate that for 4 days.
I mean, it was like watching an 80s movie where there's a panel and somebody's trying to get into a college or a school or whatever, a job. It felt very 80s except, it's such a, I'm like, wait, the ending for this is supposed to be the girl running out of the school and going to her boyfriend, like in Flashdance, and going, I made it. I got in. I broke the barriers of, the traditions.
Right.
And what isn't happening now in 2022 is that the racists are not shamed. They are not ashamed of their behavior. And so what catapulted us
they just don't want you to call them racist.
Yes. Now they're very proud of it. They still don't have the balls to come out and say that I am biased and I'm a racist. Because they still must have some kind of fear that their base is going to find that offensive, which, to be honest, they wouldn't. But it is interesting that they still don't have the balls to come out and say what we all know when we can see from the behavior. But yeah, this 80s movie, this 16 Candles, this Flashdance, all of that is not ending. This was the first good win that it felt like we had in a long time for me, that we deserve to see as far as progress of a nation. Because now we're digging ourselves out of a ditch. I know, Aisha knows that. So this was a good win.
It's really shameful because, you have people like Lindsey Graham who voted for her twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and about facing.
Like, I'm not voting for her.
Well, it's so weird because across the world, we're seeing a lot of these bold racists.
Okay, I think Aisha's internet is playing games on her.
Oh, yeah, right?
So, Aisha, we're going to ask you I'll pull her off just for a second. Oh, I think that she is back okay now. Let me bring her back. All right.
Oh, good. You were freezing.
Yeah, you were freezing.
Yeah.
So if what were you saying?
I was saying that it's really a shame how Lindsey Graham pulled out on voting for her after he voted for her twice. And and to have no reason for it, other than to Trump.
Okay, we are having some problems.
It again raises a question: what does Donald Trump have on Lindsey Graham?
Okay. Aisha, your Wi-Fi is playing games on us, so we're gonna drop you out for a second. Yeah, I thought so. All right, good. So she took care of that. One of the things I found interesting about that is that she's probably smarter than most of the justices on the Supreme Court right now.
Absolutely. And, it's so sinful what's happening. But if we start to look at all this authoritarian crap going on across the world, we're seeing it in France with Marine Le Pen.
Yeah,
in Hungary, which is very nerve-wracking. You guys have some dude who's coming up behind. They're starting to reveal themselves there, because when we normalize this and don't fight back, there is a thing where, they used to say, ignore people, sticks and stones, but that doesn't work, because what happens is they just create duplicates and clones of themselves, and it starts to become a normal atmosphere. And the whole point of this is you are never supposed to normalize racism. And I've been saying it from day one, these people need to be shunned. They need to not be invited to things. They need to not be included as participants, because that doesn't work. You have to shun racists and let them sit with themselves and eat and devour themselves, because it's the only way to highlight how starkly horrible they all are. Once you allow them to intermingle with your groups and you allow them to sit at your table, you're kind of normalizing their behavior. And then now what we see is it's just been created across the globe. We've got the dudes in Belarus. We've got the people in Russia. We've got all of them, and they're all racist. There's no way. First of all, Russia ain't got no black folks living there, like, on the regular. And they don't have real jobs, like real meaningful lives in these countries. So the world is telling people of color, we don't matter, that black people don't matter, and people of color don't matter unless they have money, and they'll still try to screw everybody over. But the reality is, do not normalize racists, because that's what's happened with the Lindsey Grahams. And what Donald Trump has on these people is that they've always been like this. He knows what they said behind closed doors. And surprisingly, it's not even all that offensive anymore, because they put people in key government positions. And now it's normal. Like stupid Le Pen, she tried to change her whole image and come across more caring. And idiots in France are actually falling for it. They believe it. But you'll only believe what you're groomed to believe. Or you're just, not very bright. Or that's who you are innately. We've been seeing that coming for a long time.
So one of the
and I apologize. We have really bad wind here, so my internet connection is not very stable. But
it's much better now.
Yeah. But you have, the other part too is that they are unabashedly racist, right? Mm-hmm. You got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Louis Gohmert going to white supremacist rallies as guest speakers. And then when it's pointed out, it's like, oh, I didn't know. You didn't know? Did you not research the organization before you agree?
Is the organization listed as a domestic terrorist organization?
The Southern Poverty Law Center lists them as a terrorist organization.
But this is the problem. There's loopholes for them going. They need to be listed like across the board on a federal level that it's a domestic terrorist group. So going to one of those rallies would be as similar as going to an ISIS rally. And
that's the failure of our government to not really have that list.
God, it's so interesting, because when you look at everything that's gone on, Dr. Vibe, in America, nothing was ever put in writing. It's all just been sort of assumed that this is the best behavior. This is the best decorum. And Donald Trump kind of challenged that on it. Like, is it? Because none of us over here in the White Alley agreed to that. And, that's what's happened. And it's really negligent, but karmically, it just doesn't surprise us, because when you don't dot your I's and cross your T's, this should be a lesson for everybody. This is what happens. Yeah. Never assume that somebody is just going to follow what you haven't put on your contract or in paper, ever.
Yeah. Well, racism has never really gone away. It just kind of went underground.
But it needed to be regulated and monitored. That's what it needed.
Well, we need to do like what Germany did after World War II, right?
Yes.
Where they even have certain hate speech that it's
totally. You couldn't, you can't go around doing
we always treat
any of that. Yeah.
Right. But here we treat anti-Black racism as if it should be a thing that we accept.
Right. Yeah. And we're supposed to tolerate it.
Why? It's like, and not only is it something that we should accept, but we have tricked other racial groups into, well, guess what? You can still be anti-Black and be accepted by white people. and
Right.
and they've done that with our own people. So for example, you have like a Herschel Walker who is running for Senate in Georgia, even though he lives in Dallas. Just him and his spoiled little rich son making all these things. And remember, the only thing that Herschel Walker is getting the backing for is because they think that Black people in Georgia are stupid. And so, well, they'll vote for our Black guy because he's popular. And it's like, do you not realize that we pay attention to the news and we're really more selective voters because there's so much at stake for us?
Having lived on this earth for now going on almost 60 years, what I've learned is that when a Black person in America is willing to make an absolute fool of themselves for the Republican Party, typically they have something that they're hiding that's of really grave dissent. There's something that they're really hiding and they need the protection, because joining the GOP is like joining the mob. Right. And you are buying into a construct of protection. And for the most part, all I'm talking a long line if you go back, but when you see any Black people willing to make an absolute fool of themselves for white men in a party known as the Republican Party, it's worth investigating what they're hiding.
Well, think about it. Herschel Walker is functioning
because it's embarrassing.
Right. Herschel Walker is functionally illiterate. Tim Scott is mediocre. And if you even go so far, I still cannot understand how Nikki Haley didn't leave the Republican Party after she was running for governor in South Carolina, and the white man in her party, Jake E. Knotts, look him up, said he didn't want another raghead in the governor's mansion because we already have one in the presidency. And so it's like the people.
I don't know. Did she kill her roommate in college or something? But seriously, I just believe these people have done some dark stuff.
Her husband overseas in the military. That's what it was.
Check on the roommate.
So, as much so, Katangi Brown but really in the scheme of things, it's not going to change the court that much because there's still a balance of conservatives.
Right. She's replacing a Democratic appointee.
Yeah.
And they were asked, and this is the thing that they worried about, was packing the court. So when they asked her the question about packing the court, it's ridiculous because that would not be something that she would even have a say in. It was a stupid question because at that point it was like you have to ask the president. And truth be told, packing the court by adding 2 more justices, it's not really packing the court. The fact that we have an odd number of justices is really the problem, right? Because that always means that there will never be a possibility for an equal amount of people on both sides of the aisle.
Okay.
And that is a big problem.
Has the Supreme Court, like many issues and institutions in the United States, become too political?
Well, that's the whole problem, is that the Supreme Court is not supposed to be political, but it becomes a political tool because it is appointed by a politician, right?
Sadly, its reputation is really sunk. No one really gives it the same kind of esteem that it used to have. I mean, that's just across the board. Nobody cares. They think it's a joke.
I mean, when the Supreme Court upheld the demolishment of the 15th Amendment, that's when it became political. Was when they stopped all those protections. The protections to the Voting Rights Act were there for a reason, because of those states that deliberately tried to suppress the Black vote, stop Black people from registering, and using terror in order to do it. That is why they had to pass that law. Guess what? I guess they assumed because the majority of Black people voted for Barack Obama that, it's fine. So we, because they did, we don't need to protect their vote. No, we need our vote protected even more, because the fear is always that we're going to vote for someone we feel is listening to us. And And here's the thing: you've got when Black people vote, we do put people in who give us signature legislation that benefits the whole country. So, for example, with Barack Obama, we got the Obamacare, right? We got the ACA, and that has helped how many millions of people who weren't getting health care get health care. And all the Republicans want to do is repeal it. They say repeal and replace, but they don't even have a replacement for it. They just want to repeal it because of the amount of poor people and people of color that it gives healthcare to, right? Because it's not in our best interest. I mean, it's not in their best interest for us to be healthy.
Hello,
It's like,
Jen Myers.
it's
Hello,
like
Jen.
how they politicized COVID at first. Remember when they first came out, it's like, oh, COVID is killing Black and brown people at a higher rate than other people. Well, guess what? That was the door that allowed Trump to come in and say, oh, guess what? It's all hype.
Well, I also want to shout out to what probably our most dedicated.
Actually, they said Black people couldn't get it.
They were saying that, but then when they were talking
Which
about the number of
I
deaths,
felt was incredibly negligent. There were so many people believing that there was some kind of special blood, and that was put out by one of those PACs and special interest groups. They
Right.
paid for that article.
But the reality is that
pretty-
Black
and
and
for
Latino
me-
people were dying more from it because of the closeness and proximity of
Well,
cities.
yes, that's absolute. But the point I'm making is how it was politicized from the minute that it started
Right.
to with the intention, the intention to kill more Black people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
people of color.
And we had a president who would benefit from that, right? Because the
he
number of
totally-
voters
yeah,
would
of
go
course.
down. Because it's like
Absolutely.
to allow 1 million people, because we're almost at 1 million people dead from COVID. That
They'd already killed Jared Kushner, so why would
Right.
they care about killing a bunch of other people? I
Right.
mean, they'd already killed Jamal Khashoggi,
Okay,
so
but-
why would they care about killing Black people?
Exactly. And think about that. The 1 million people that's an entire voting block, right? Of people that have died from COVID. That's an entire
Yeah.
voting block. And the assumption is that voting block is Democratic. I would beg to differ because Democrats were first in line to be getting their shots.
Yeah.
Just want to shout out one of our wonderful followers, Jen Myers. She's here.
Hey, Jen.
We're on earlier than usual, and Jen is still here with us. So thank
Jen
you,
is such a
Jen.
good friend of mine. She really is.
Was she a
and-
friend of yours before we came on?
Yeah, Jen has a Facebook Prince tribute group, and it's one of the least animus ones. You have the ones where you got people with their the unpopular opinion this, and then people that want to argue back and forth, like Prince was this, Prince was that. Hers doesn't allow that. It's just like news and pictures and things like that you want to hear. And she keeps like all the controversial talk like off of her stuff.
Wonderful.
And so it's a place where you can really enjoy just Prince and his music. Some of the other ones I despise.
Okay. Well, Jen,
I'm not
shout
holding
you out. Jen, one day we'd love to have you come on live with us if you're up to it. I would really, really. And here she goes. She goes, I'm the one. I'm the no drama mama.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks, Jen, as always, for your continuous support. It's appreciated, not taken for granted.
And she also shares our show on her page.
Thank you, Jen. So
And she's always promoting my writing, which I appreciate. I really do.
Wow, Jen, we have to at least meet through digitally, even if it's on offline one day. I want to just really say thank you so much. Appreciate it, not taken for granted. Aisha, what is Jill looking at? She's looking at something.
I am sending out about this show. I had to figure out how to cut and paste it and take a picture because there wasn't a direct link into Instagram. I still don't know if it actually worked, but
that's okay.
We'll see.
No problem. So yeah, Katangi, I think it's great that she's on there. Won't make a big change, but I think, and we won't talk about it here, but I think maybe next week we got to talk about Clarence Thomas and his wife.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, with any luck, that.
Okay.
You know what? I want to know the truth. Is Clarence Thomas on his deathbed or not? Because
No.
even if he was, Republicans wouldn't say it.
I don't think he is.
To have his next pick.
I don't think he is, and if he is, then he's getting some kind of treatment. But
he's very sick. I know that.
There's that whole situation with his
he's
wife.
Probably diabetic. It's like he probably was just having some diabetic issue, because they're both like, either one of them don't look like healthy people, he or his wife.
Well, I think that he might be sick in order to find his way out, because his wife really embarrassed the hell out of him.
I don't think he's going to do that. He's another one willing to make a fool of himself for the party, because there's something that he's done that's been pretty despicable.
Well,
they're just and he'll be there for as long as they need his
wife's actions are questionable. Let's just put it that way right now, right? Oh, Jen Coles comes back.
His wife is just as bad as what's the other Step and Fetchit's name? Ben Carson.
Yeah.
Oh, so Jen is saying yes.
Ben Carson's wife is a black version of Clarence Thomas's wife.
Okay. So Jen is saying, yes, I love to share Aisha's work and this show. So many group members absolutely love it. Thank you,
Great.
Jen. Thank you. Appreciate it so much. So much. Well, one day, let's see you on the screen when you're out ready.
Yeah, definitely.
We'd like to see that. We'd love to see our friend. Go ahead.
I just want to say that I think it's a woman who's in the White House. I forgot her name, something Bailey. She's been trying to say that she wants women to particularly wear
black and
white outfits and then a string of pearls when Katangi is in honor of many women who've gone, who have made it and broken the ceiling a little bit.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her.
Yeah, but the reason it's black and white was to forge the world of black and white, that as women we're coming together, and the pearls are that she's one of our pearls as a woman. That's what I think that is about.
I was actually surprised at how many quote unquote Bernie bros were so against Katangi being the nominee.
Bernie bros are also incels. They are people who are lost on Reddit. Some of them are too intellectual for their own good, and some are too dumb for their own good. That's what Bernie Bros. He found that pot of gold, of a group of people that just he's the party that you just wander into, and sometimes you'll meet really cool people, and sometimes you'll meet scary ones. So that was what Bernie picked up in the you got to have them somewhere, but there is some kind of reality. You got to there are not that many intelligent people, it seems, in the last generation. Somewhere here, something happened, and new ones coming up aren't doing much better.
Well, a lot of that is that we've accepted mediocrity as being the standard bearer for American intellectualism, right?
Yeah.
And so,
well, what do you do with these people?
Our House and Senate full of mediocre politicians.
Very unremarkable. They're incredibly unremarkable.
And if you're white, you don't even remember them. You go a whole lot further than if you're a person of color who's mediocre. You might, if you're a person of color who's mediocre, the only chance that you really have, particularly in politics, is if you're a Tim Scott type.
And a lot of bootlickers. I think the Asian ones in Orange County in California, a lot of bootlickers. It's amazing that we've never had any of the Asian support from the House of Representatives of Congress in the ones who are, voting for the behalf of women, or, voting for voter rights. They're siding with their GOP people. And for me, that's unacceptable, which, really I feel that we shouldn't have passed the hate law against them.
Right. And there's really,
because I know that's really messed up to say, but you got to give to get. And I just don't think it's fair. I don't think they've shown us enough respect. I don't think that the Asian community in Congress has shown people of color or women enough respect, especially the ones who are Republicans. You are in a fine position where you're not a white Republican. You are in a party that your faces could actually help change and broaden and expand, because there might be some value to some kind of traditions that, you know, the Republican Party once upheld, but you are all making sure it's hell bent on just going down the racist route. And for me, that's pretty disgusting, because
remember what
I may
Lindsey
not
Graham
like,
said, though, about
I may not like,
if you're a black conservative, you can vote.
yeah, I know, but Lindsey Graham is an idiot, and he's not going to like, you know, and he's also a drunk. You know, you can look at him and see he's just a bloated drunk. It's absolutely, and he's obviously been drinking through the years, because it's getting more and more pronounced. That is not filler on his face. That's alcohol bloat. And anybody with any common sense knows it. You know, he's a very haunted individual, and we can leave it there. And if anyone takes him seriously, they need their heads examined, you know, because
let's leave it there.
That's just it.
I mean, yeah, considering what 2 years ago he was praising Joe Biden, and now it's like
he'll praise anybody to stay in office. He's a worm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how he won over Jamie Harrison when Jamie was like miles ahead for up until like the last week.
Okay.
He stole the election.
Yeah.
So Jen is saying she'd love to come on at some point. Well, I don't like some point. We want a date. Some point could be years down. Well, I'll let Aisha work on that. She can work on that. And look who's here also, Black Beauty. I'm loving this conversation, ladies, and the points of view. Thank you for being with us in the daytime. It's just a one-off. This isn't going to happen all the time, family. So thank you, Black Beauty, for taking the time. Let's move on to our next conversation piece. Patrick Lyoya's family demands answers after fatal police shooting. So unfortunately, another Black man shot by police while he's being basically at mercy. Thoughts?
Well, here's the thing.
Black Lives Matter is crap.
Right. Well, we always knew that this was going to happen.
They did a great job, didn't they?
We knew this was going to happen again, because nothing has been done to curtail police reaction. My thing is this: if you're a police officer and you shoot a Black person because you were fearful, then you don't need to be a police officer. Isn't that like one of the things that we give Purple Hearts for bravery? So that's the first thing. The second thing was there was this language barrier. Okay. There was that. But then there was the part that really got me, was that how do you justify shooting someone in the back of the head? That means their back was to you. Right? And the video is disturbing. And remember, we're hearing about this video a few weeks after the incidents happened, because had there not been a video, we would not have heard about this one. And it's really sad that there has to be video in order to justify how wrong these shootings are. I mean, when is it? It's like you decided that a taser was not enough, and you didn't shoot to injure, just really shot to kill. And I think that's part of, the whole defund police movement wasn't, I think Republicans were able to latch onto that in order to not change the status quo.
It was a stupid movement. I mean, it was the wording was absolutely stupid, and it was run and initiated by a bunch of grifters called the Black Lives Matter group. They can go to hell. They are partly responsible for this too. They did nothing to create groups with all that donation money. What the hell did they do? Don't even get me started on them. They all need to be harangued, because
and that's the sad part about
they bought homes here. I expect Governor Newsom or somebody to shut them down and confiscate their homes I think it was disgusting. Where were these millions and millions of dollars that were supposed to go and rehabilitate? You can't rehabilitate buying a house in a neighborhood, dumb asses. You need to be zoned for that. You need to be an actual organization. So nobody
that shows
is
you
really
how money can corrupt a movement, right?
It shows how the intention was wrong. That's not about money corrupted them. It was the intention was never there from the beginning. They exploited a problem and they did not fulfill what they said they were going to do. I always had my hesitations because no one ever really wanted to accept the responsibility for being in charge of it. But they, as far as I'm concerned, should be totally brought in front of a commission in the Senate, and they need to be grilled over and over and over about what they did with that money. That was wrong. There were people who marched out here during the George Floyd incident. And to be honest with you, they are no different than any other scammer that I see on Instagram exploiting animals who need surgeries and I send money to. Fuck them. And I really mean it. And I hope to God they pay for this because it's wrong. That money needs to be confiscated and it needs to go to groups and help people and help address problems. You don't come in and exploit it. Some people lost their eyes. They lost their limbs protesting for this thing. And they made Black people look like a joke. And it's no wonder no one takes us seriously. And anyone who stands by it is a fool.
Well, look, so whenever Sean King, that grifter, is involved in anything, it's a con.
Sean King, completely, I don't know his full story. I don't know, but he has not done something this explosive. Not really. I don't know what his thing is.
He did. He said he collected money for Tamir Rice's mother and never gave it to her. He kept it.
Okay, well, there's two sides to that story, and we need to see the investigation. The problem is there's nobody regulating any of these nonprofits, none of it anymore. It has been a free-for-all, and there's nobody who can help you when your identity gets stolen. Everything is a circular reference. I feel like our country is in a big Excel spreadsheet and nothing is resolved. It's like, what the hell is this formula?
I want to get back though to this shooting. Why are these things still happening in America?
Because we allow it.
We don't allow it. We don't allow it. What are we supposed to do? Physically go and police it ourselves?
No,
what are we supposed to do?
We don't always punish people the way that they should be punished. Because think about it, until the George Floyd incident, for the most part, these police officers were getting off.
No, Dr. Vibe made a great point last week. You said you read an article that said nobody in America wants to be a police officer because it doesn't pay enough. Some of our cops get $300,000 a year. Okay, like in places like the Hamptons and in other, I could be wrong with all
even
the numbers,
in New York City, they make like 100,000.
They're making a lot, but he did have the point, which was most white supremacists are coming in and they're taking the jobs. Now, if any of our African American men would stop wanting to be rappers, or maybe do something else. I mean, really, we have a problem in America. Period right now with everybody thinking I'm going to get rich on Bitcoin. I'm going to get rich on this. And there are just practical things that need to be taken care of. And we don't have that anymore. We keep promoting this. You can do anything. Just take care of the damn basics.
Well, one of the
that's
things
part of the myth of the American dream, right? That anybody can come here and become super globally rich. And so people are raised to believe that,
and they can. I mean, exploit it and go make millions.
Anything, except if you're a Black person that's actually here. You really can't, because there are so many obstacles in the way. And that is the failure of the Black Lives Matter movement, is that they should be doing things on redlining. They should be doing things on school desegregation.
They did
They
nothing.
should be doing things on these shootings, even to the point
on
that
COVID. There were so many things that they had,
and they're not policy.
Did nothing.
So see where I'm concerned too also is, and again, as I'd mentioned last week, and I'm just putting it out there, and not my opinion, but a lot of opinions are saying now, okay, well, defund the police, etc. Then a lot of police say, you know what, this job is too hard. They're gone, and now people who have questionable character and backgrounds are now becoming the priests. Another thing I want to ask you, ladies, both, is a few weeks ago you talked about how more states in America are relaxing gun laws.
Gun laws.
Yeah, in Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where they're like, you can carry a concealed weapon without
and you don't have to let anybody know. Yeah,
so that to me is that's the most ridiculous thing in the world, and the American fear of, my daughter and I were talking about this morning, how we've added amendments to all these other constitution amendments, all these laws, but one that they won't touch is the Second Amendment, which honestly, if you're going to take that for what it's worth and take it literally, the right to bear arms is to provide for a militia. Well, guess what? We already have a military. We have police. There really is no reason for the Second Amendment to broadly apply to any American who wants to have a gun.
But they don't see our military as the militia that they want to protect them, because we have stupid people here who even support Russia. And they see our militia or army as an enemy of the state. We have some sick people here that need to be, that are certifiable. And there's no way they're ever going to come back from the darkness. We're trying to deal with ghost guns at the moment in California, because we have seen that you can go back with your 3D printer and you can make a gun, and all you need is just to go and get your ammo. We're dealing with that here. But how long? How long does everybody have to keep? It's just a country that is kind of dead. Doesn't really have any respect for anybody's life.
I mean, when
everybody wakes up here every day and struggles to get through it and prays that they don't get caught in the fray.
Yeah,
it's like going to war every day in America, and literally living here is like having a gun full of one bullet and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And
that's it.
The line of demarcation should have been when babies here in my state were killed in their school. That should have been enough.
That was the day we found out America doesn't care about its children.
Well, obviously, and that's what's so funny about the Republican Party. They're the pro-birth party. They're not pro-life, because if they were pro-life, after Sandy Hook, they would have tightened those gun laws. And remember, most of these shootings, these mass shootings, are done with registered guns. We are the only country in the world that has more guns than people in our land.
And rats. And more rats.
Well, and to not think that is a problem. Why do the number of guns outnumber the number of people? That's the case. Every last one of us could get shot.
Black Beauty says, I will forever be puzzled as why these nonprofits aren't regulated, as well as the judicial system continues to allow these officers to kill people without true consequences.
Well, here's the reason: because nonprofits are regulated as tax exempt. So if they're claiming the money on their taxes, then they are following the regulations. What they don't have are regulations for activities and for expenditures and questionable things like that. That's the problem with our nonprofits. I mean, and I was engaged in trying to get a nonprofit to be truthful about their stuff, and focusing on the fact that it wasn't doing what it said it was doing, and it was scamming money from people. But it's like, to even get that attention from the government on something, it took 2 years. It took 2 years. And there really is like the only way these nonprofits get caught is when they don't spend the money the way that they're saying they spent it. So for example, that's how Trump lost his nonprofit, right? Because they paid for that $60,000 picture. But it's like, other than that, there is no regulation on on nonprofits. Nonprofits are left to regulate themselves.
So let's get back though to this killing, for lack of a better word. Like,
people just shouldn't come here. I mean, it's like when somebody tells you they don't want you here or want you somewhere, stop going, because we don't have the ability to protect people who don't speak the language or who are Black that want to come and live here. Honest to Jesus, I'm so sorry to say that, but it's like, we can't protect you. We are incapable of making sure you get home safely at night. And, you know, it's like what Boris Johnson just pulled with sending all people who come to his country illegally. And if they're found, he's sending them to Rwanda. I mean, when somebody tells you who they are, you need to listen. It's really like, we are incapable. And it'll be interesting to see the fact that enough white people have not done anything to change it, nor do they really seem like they want to. What are you supposed to do?
So,
I mean, what
and I
can
think
you
it's
do?
partly responsible too, because here's the thing for me is that when they were showing this video, they're like, we froze it before the shot is fired. Why? The reason people reacted the way they did to George Floyd was that we saw the whole video. We saw the life drain out of him. But when these shootings happen, they want to stop the video before. No, people actually need to see this part of it. It's like the insensitive thing. For example, our state, after Sandy Hook, they passed a law very quickly. Like, you know, I'd never seen a government move this quickly, but they passed a law very quickly to keep the pictures of the scene at Sandy Hook sealed, because out of protecting the parents. When honestly, I don't know if that was necessarily, I feel for the parents, but I don't know if that was necessarily a good thing. I think people probably needed to see what.
No, I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't think that makes any difference. There's something we need to also address. I feel, and I know I'm going to be on the wrong side of this, because I think people witnessing murder after murder after murder daily, and some horrific things that people have seen visually in films and on their stupid games on video, I really do believe it has desensitized people to seeing this stuff. And even when they see it on film it looks like a movie. I mean, even our iPhone 13 has it looks like a movie setting. So looking at that video, it looks like it was filmed. There is the only thing that will snap Americans out of it is when America becomes Ukraine and they are running for their lives here. And they realize that these bullets are not on a video screen. They're actually coming for me. And that's the only way white Americans will ever make moves to do anything.
What needs to be done with police?
I gotta give
what needs to be done with policing?
Saying, though, I have to say this, because when the Sandy Hook thing happened, and I was in the hospital getting a blood transfusion, and I looked up on the screen and I just saw the word "new." I was not surprised, because I assumed it was my hometown of New Haven, which has a lot of shootings in Connecticut. It was when I saw that was Newtown that kind of shocked me, and that shouldn't. I was kind of desensitized to gun violence here in my city, because it had been going on since I was a kid. I was at school. There were 3 shootings when I was in high school at my school. So it can desensitize people. But I think the other part of it is that this gun culture, there's something that to some people is very sexual, right? It's very, and it's enticing that way, which is something that I completely don't understand.
Well, they get rewarded. It's from, it's the culture. Look at music videos, all the rappers. Sorry, I know everybody's going to be like, oh my God.
We got to move on a little bit, but I just want to get back.
One of the worst things for me was when Prince had a microphone and it looked like a gun. I thought that was pretty for me. No, it was.
Yeah. No. And you know, what's so funny about that is
not
that
like that.
Is that the reason behind it was really because he felt himself competing with rappers, which was ridiculous.
Yeah, it looked like it. I just thought, wow, I thought you really got to be above all that. That was not a great era, in my opinion.
What needs to be done with the police when it comes to dealing with Black people?
They need to learn how to deal with Black people. I think police see policing Black communities as policing the enemy, and that is the problem. They go into the community that they don't live in, right? So first of all, it's difficult to assume that they'll care about a community that is not theirs. So they go into these communities and they end up hiring too a lot of people who feel very powerless in their regular lives. So they seek these jobs. I mean, think about it. When they're when they're recruiting police officers, they're recruiting people who maybe didn't go to college, people who come out the military. And remember, our military also has a very high percentage of Republicans.
Racism. And
so
how would you have someone's back and you're in the army? That's tough. And
right.
They did that. Our men did that even back in World War II.
Right. And part of the problem with the way policing is done and the way the military is done is that they had always been segregated from the beginning. Think about it. It was monumental in the 60s and 70s to hire a Black police officer in a lot of these places.
Okay. The thing is that white people across the world are afraid of dark skin. Across the board. I hate to say it, but they are. And they're all the same. They all have these conjured because of the way that they've been indoctrinated from films, from different dogmas and different ideologies. It is just how it's been. And they can deny and not tell the truth about history as much as they want. But the reality is the stink and the stench of racism reeks in all of it. And that's the foundation. And it comes from fear.
And that's why they were able to vote for Trump, because think about it. It was the fear of knowing that by 2025, they will be the minority in this country.
Before we leave this subject, a good question from Black Beauty. Can I play devil's advocate here and say it's possible the police are scared and panic when in a physical confrontation with a subject?
True. We know the training is terrible.
Suspect.
But we know
don't become a police officer, because that is your job, to deal with dangerous situations.
Period. I used to say that, but when you think about it, looking at the different types of guns that they're coming out with, yeah, for sure. This is, I think it does cut both ways. Like if I see another group of Black kids going into Beverly Hills and crashing into Louis Vuitton, and I hate to say that they're Black kids, but for the most part, they look like that's what they are. It just keeps sending mixed signals. They're another set of circumstances that makes us all look bad. Unfortunately, our community takes the brunt and the hit of that kind of bullshit. And it's really like that. Those are the people who live on your street and they ain't got no grass on their front yard. You know what I mean? And you're like going, can you all get your shit together and take care of your kids? Because this is the problem. And that conversation still needs to be had in the community, because as quiet as it's kept, it's a problem.
But isn't that the shame of it all, is that one Black person is taken to represent the whole race of Black people?
But that's just the way it is.
White people can be individuals. It's like, oh no, that was a rogue individual that did that mass shooting, and it's not characteristic of white people, but Black person.
But we characterize a few of them on certain things. That's not entirely true. Right, we can categorize them when I see a shooting, and I'm typically thinking it's white for a mass shooting. Like in New York, I was kind of like surprised the dude was Black. I was like, oh wow, he's just fucking crazy.
Right.
All right. So we'll move on. That was quite the conversation, as always. But we'll get on to the next conversation topic. Let's go on to another interesting story. Kentucky and Oklahoma new abortion laws. Aisha, start us on this one.
Well, Kentucky passed their ban at 15 weeks for women to have abortions. They have to have it before 15 weeks. But the way that the law is set is that in order to have it done in that 15-week period, there has to be all these things that people have to sign up for, but they didn't make the things that people have to sign up for, like the forms and everything. They didn't make
right?
them. Right. So that the 2 abortion clinics in Kentucky had to close because they can't properly document the abortions, because the government is supposed to make the forms, but because and they're not making the forms on purpose, because they want to do away with abortion. And remember, in Kentucky, they have a Democratic governor. They have a Republican controlled House and Senate, and they overrode the governor's veto.
Yep.
And so that is one of the things that's very scary about these upcoming elections. And it's like Black people of color vote in every election. That means you vote every year, because the state houses are to be more feared than the federal government, because they're really affecting how you vote, whether or not you can vote. They're affecting these laws, these road laws. And because the Mississippi one is what they're all based on. Mississippi has this 15-week voting, this 15-week abortion law, and theirs is being heard by the Supreme Court, I think, in August. And so Kentucky has this one, and Oklahoma also effectively passed a 15-week abortion law that looks very much like the one in Kentucky. And so there's about to be no abortion availability in Oklahoma either. And for me, it's like, I get so frustrated with Republicans on this issue, because they are not pro-life. They're pro-birth, because they don't really care what happens to the life after it's born. They want to strip away government subsidies that some of these women would need to get in terms of like Medicaid. They want to strip some of these other programs of money. Well, how are people supposed to take care of children that they don't intend to give birth to?
Jill?
Well, I have a couple things to say about this. Number one, this is not my my rodeo, my discussion. I don't even have a period anymore, so I'm done. If young women did not see fit to come out and really make themselves known about this, I can't keep battling this. I battled it long enough when I was younger. Secondly, there is this evolution of embryology, which is a science-based concept. And as we know with science, just because it's science doesn't always mean it's right, but it is an evolving study. The main thing for me is that I don't think this comes down to people being pro-life or pro-birth or pro-death. At a point in a society, you have to make an ethical, if not conscious, decision about how you want to run it. I believe in stem cell research. I believe in taking care of the people that are here. I do believe that one thing can serve as another to help forward this concept of life. I also have my own faith that I believe in, that I'm not trying to project onto someone else. And I feel that the government kind of oversteps in this capacity, especially when it's the sovereignty of a person's own personal body, that they should be allowed to do what they want. I believe in euthanasia as well. I believe that if people want to go and end their own lives, I do believe that they should be able to. I think that, of course, with some, if they're terminally ill or whatever, these things that I believe didn't occur just because I read it. It's because I've had experiences in life that have led me to believe. I think that I can't be fighting these battles. They're going to take away abortion for people, period. But I think, and it's ultimately, it might be what this generation wants. And if that's what it is, then so be it. I can't, but just know that your medical advancements and different things are going to take step back. But I also don't understand if you're so pro-life, why you are meat eaters, why you project your religion on other people when we are supposed to have a separation of church and state. I don't think it's fair. It doesn't represent the whole body of this nation for those people who don't believe in your God or a God, period. And I feel like the society has to grow to start meeting the needs of everybody. And these are not emotional discussions. I think they need to be really sober. And sometimes those kind of conversations are difficult to have. And there are difficult compromises to make, but they just get Americans on an emotional wheelbarrow. That's just what it is. And you've got the poorest of the poor who would be only the ones affected by this. I can tell you that before abortion was really legal in most of these states, it was not difficult to get a morning after pill. Your doctors had them. It was easy to get them. And this was before any states had even approved it. So that's my take on it. Just letting you know, if you had the money, you could get it.
Well, the other thing you have too is with these two laws is that there's no exception for rape and incest. So you're forcing women who've been sexually abused to carry their abuser's child.
But you're forcing, sorry to interrupt, but you're also forcing people who have lived with the secrets in their families buried a long time ago, knowing that Auntie Sally is really your sister. You know what I mean? It's like you're forcing people to have to look at another aspect of their lives that they think, well, you know, that's grandpa, grandma, that's grandpa's sister or whatever. People have adjusted and they don't think that their, you know, child who came out from that union was so messed up. You know, it's really crazy. That's what's happening, Aisha. Sorry.
Honestly, if you want to legislate something of women, I'm all for let's legislate menopause. Okay, let's legislate that, because I'm sitting here and I'm waiting.
Okay.
I just think that when you want to legislate your religion,
menopause after 40 something, I'd be all for it.
Okay.
But people legislating their faith, for me,
someday if it's menopause.
Legislate laws around somebody's faith, to me, is wrong for a country that claims that there's a separation of church and state.
So Jen says, I fear that Ohio will try to pass a similar law, especially if Mike DeWine gets another term.
Yeah.
Dana says, that's the point, Jill. This generation needs to think about who they are. We can't do it for them. I'm 50 and out of that fight on a level. Yeah. But Black Beauty has a question here. What the H are women to do with an unwanted pregnancy? These states don't want to feed the kids, house them, or anything. So what's the solution?
Exactly. And then these are the same people who will turn around and complain that we have too many safety nets.
Because you're disrupting so many institutions when you create an outlet for people to get rid of the product. Okay, so the product, meaning children and putting them in foster care, that's a ton of money right there. They don't make adopting children in foster care very easy either. That's a gold mine. Somebody needs to look and see, like, how much money does a state generate? Who's getting the money for all of these children?
It's a big business.
And here's my thing.
And it's legalized trafficking of children. People get paid to abuse children in their homes. Some are not equipped to be foster parents or adoptive parents. They dump these kids out at 18. They don't have the decency to give them a stipend for a year to help them or help their futures. We basically house these kids like they're a product of some garbage that you're keeping in a storage unit that has a sell-by date, and you got to throw all this shit out. It's really wrong. And those are the people that love or pro-life. I don't know how they sleep at night, because they're not trying to find other solutions. It's not enough to say, adopt, don't shop, or all this stuff. Find a solution. Well, nobody wants to kill their kids. Let's just make that really fucking clear.
Right. And the sad part of it is when they try and say, oh, it's going to hurt Black people the most. Well, no, having unwanted children hurts more, because Black children are like 3 times as long as any other group of kids to stay in foster care. And that is the sad reality of it. And my niece is adopted, and my sister got her when she was 17. And it's very rare that you see an older Black child get a home at that
or
point
an
in their lives.
older white one too.
Yeah,
it's really, I have white friends who were in foster care and they just never come out. It's a moneymaker for the states. And I think that is why they don't want the abortions. It's not like they're doing anything so noble and patting themselves on the back. That's all fake. That's just crap, because it's still not a solution. Because my thing would be, okay, so you want to take away the abortion? Then let's deal with this situation right here. What are we going to do about it? Then that means that foster care and all these things, the monies that go into that, then you need to be prepared to back this up, because these are people in a society who pay taxes into a community, and they're not going to be served by you implementing a law and forcing them to adhere to. That's not cool, because God knows we don't have any more Mother Teresa's here, right?
Listen, they give foster parents more money than they do
adoptive parents. Yes, they do. And that's why they never get adopted.
Right. Yeah. And then they'll say to you, oh, guess what? You get a tax credit when you have children. Yeah, $2,500 once a year as a tax write-off is really going to help, when that barely covers childcare for a month.
Exactly. You get more money by fostering children who are in the system. And it's really difficult for people who want children to go and adopt in these states. I know many people who've tried, and that's why they've gone out of the country to do it, because it's not that easy.
Yeah. And the sad part about this, the other sad part about these laws are that they are mostly being decided by men. That is the sad part. White men. It's like, if men were able to have babies and knew what a body went through in that 9 months and never forget that last day, this wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, but they're trafficking children essentially. And the other thing is, with the poverty situation or corporations going in and buying up all of these homes, people won't even meet the criteria to be able to adopt. They won't be able to move them into an apartment. Who's going to have a bunch of kids that when you rent an apartment, you've got to move every year? Because Texas doesn't even have a state where there's rent stabilization. A person can raise the rent from $2,000 to $3,400 in a year. Everyone wants to talk about how fantastic Texas is. Let me tell you, that's bullshit. The reality is, stingy pays twice. You move to Texas, you may be saving a little bit on some money, and we're going to get into Texas in a minute. But my whole point is that I feel that these places are making a lot more money with the children in foster care and the food stamps. They're all running, these congressmen and these politicians and these donors are running their programs through it. There are groups, ton of religious groups, these evangelical groups, that they too are nonprofits, and they apply for money from the government, and they're getting money, and they're running their bullshit through it, so they get money. And remember, they never have to pay taxes. So what you're looking at are circular references, and all of the deceit, the deception, and the corruption. This is all show. This abortion stuff, fighting over women's vaginas and uteruses. That's not the point here. Let's dig a little deeper into the walls of this uterus, baby, because the reality is, it's about men profiting off of women, no different than they profit off of a slaughterhouse.
Okay, I think we are done on that one. Dana Smith says white men. I'll leave it at that. Let's go to our next conversation topic. Ukraine sinks Russian flagship, allegedly sinks the Russian flagship in the ongoing Ukraine defense of their country against the Russians.
Mm-hmm. It's not funny, but it's funny because Vladimir Putin, he just thought that he was the man. He's like, I'm going to come in and in 5 days, I'm going to take over Ukraine. And Ukrainians are like,
I know.
And it's like, it's like he's making like every mistake everywhere. So it's like, fine, we didn't get to take, just kill them all. Just, randomly shoot civilians and what have you. And this artificial date that he's supposed to leave Ukraine by May 9th. Anybody who believes that is a fool. He's going to be there for the long haul. Don't be surprised if this doesn't go longer than a year.
It's true. He's a real Mo, though. He looks like he belongs in the Three Stooges. Wow. It really is like, he should have kept that mouth shut. Child, we came out, bats and dingleberries and everything else flew out. We don't know, who are you, girl? Like, I want to know. I thought you had it together more than this, right? This is so terrible because it's kind of like the reason he's going to be such a butcher. I mean, he can't even have the decency to be he's so bumbling that this is why his cruelty is so savage, because he's out of his league. He's never been a general. I don't even know, was he ever really KGB, guys? Because I just think dude just could sit back and, well, now it's starting to make the whole damn place look like everybody made a big deal out of these people because that they don't deserve. I mean, it is not the Russia I recall from growing up in the Cold War. That's all I'm going to say. When, I was like, loving Olga Korbut, the gymnast, and thinking, wow, gosh, if she could only defect and come here. I don't know who this dude thinks he is, because he really, if he's getting anything, it's just by hook or crook and just slaughtering people. And I feel like we should act swiftly. Personally, it shouldn't have gone on this long, in my opinion. Yeah. I think it was worth the risk to take, but who am I?
He bungled this so badly.
Quick, fast, in a hurry, didn't he?
He reminds me of Boris from Boris and Natasha on Mighty Mouse, because they bungled everything. And this is literally what he has done.
Boris and Natasha.
It's like
Mighty Mouse drop. All right.
He bungled everything. And it's like
it's Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Rocky and Bullwinkle footing. It's like, I also want to know what's wrong with him, because this is a sick man. And I don't mean mentally sick, because he's that too, but he's physically sick because he's got prednisone face.
He does.
And he's taking steroids for something. Because if you look at older pictures of him and you look at pictures of him now, he's got the moon face.
So Black Dude is saying, why does everyone seem to be okay with the fantasy that America has clean hands in this?
Well,
I don't know but to what capacity? I don't understand the question.
I'm guessing that the explanation is that, but you can't really blame America for this. You have to blame Trump and the Trump party, because they were the ones who withheld the javelins and all the weapons that Ukraine was asking for in preparation for something like this happening.
Finland has theirs.
Trump tried to blackmail his way into giving them, do us a favor first, find out on Hunter Biden, and then we'll do. That was the basis of the whole first impeachment, right? Mm-hmm. Was basically the quid pro quo from Ukraine, and the fact that the Ukrainian president, that Zelensky, had enough principles to be like, no,
which we do all the time. We have provided them this for how long? Let's make that clear too. It was an agreement. We had an agreement. Trump reneged on it.
Right. And and the other thing I think that is like this other threat that Putin has come up with was that if Finland and Sweden join NATO, then you're going to attack. What kind of threat is that when you can't even get through Ukraine?
No, it's interesting. Finland has an underground city. They've been building it for years.
I saw that.
And it's very interesting. That doesn't sound like somebody who's friendly sitting on the side. And they've also been lining up for a couple of years. They've known it. And Sweden as well. It's been the talk for a while. And you just have to know which publications to have been reading it to see that.
And remember, Finland shares 1,500 miles of border with Russia. Mm-hmm. So they have been on high alert for a long time. So this doesn't scare them. And truth be told, Putin does not want more NATO partners, because all that does is place more sanctions on Russia. And
And-
right now, he finally
True.
admitted that that Russia is suffering because of the gas and oil, and Europe trying to pass this law to not accept any more.
And people are
energy
conserving
sources.
energy in Europe at the moment. What's interesting about Finland, a lot of people don't realize, or they may have forgotten, or they don't know the history. You know, Finland has had long issues with Russia for a very long time. This is another wound and scar that Putin wants to restore, as if he has a right to Finland, but they never got Finland, because this was the twist of how sometimes in war, that's why Finland in World War II aligned with the Germans. And that was to kick Russia's ass and make sure they didn't take Finland. And in the process, there was the agreement not to take their Jews and kill them, where they took maybe 6,000 at the beginning before this deal was negotiated. But basically, you know, ain't nobody got no love for Russia. It's been sitting there coveting Finland forever. But the Finns are really tough. If you get any documentaries to watch about the Finns, don't ever underestimate the Finnish, ever.
And I think
they are scrappy. They are scrappy, and they are no joke.
Well, one of the challenges we have too in America is that most people don't know history, and the fact that you have Republicans who want to shield people from history is ridiculous, because then people would know. First of all, the way Russia is, it started with Stalin, right? So it's not like Putin is the first of his kind. Right. He's the modern incarnation of that. Russia has always been on the side of wrong. Remember, Russia had its arms open for Hitler. Right. Yeah. So Russia has never been a country that is above reproach. And to assume that they ever will be, when they have state TV. The people in Russia aren't even aware of what's going on in Ukraine and the mass tragedies that are happening. The big graves for like 700, 800 people. They're not even aware of that, because the message that they're getting from their news sources is that, oh, Ukraine started this. Ukraine's doing this. Ukraine has done this. And there's also a huge anti-American sentiment in Russia. And a lot of that goes back to, like Jill said, the Cold War and World War II, when the U.S. got involved. Because when you think about it, the United States never intended to get involved in World War II. It was like, that's them over there. It wasn't until the bombing of Pearl Harbor that we got involved in it. And I think the approach that the country is taking now, in my opinion, is probably the wrong approach, because you can't be diplomatic with someone who has no sense of diplomacy.
True.
You really can't.
At all.
It's like, honestly, this probably wouldn't have even lasted 8 weeks if we had gone in. It would have been done it over in 3.
Wow.
I mean, but the problem is that Russia, what they experienced when they tried to pull this stuff, because everybody wants to go, oh, America, we've sold arms. Well, we're number 1 and Russia's number 2. So you got to look at it here. I mean, Russia sells their stuff 100% to Belarus. They're down. See, they were just like, we're down to fight. And then there's China. China, at 81% of their arms comes from Russia, said, no, we're out for the moment. There was a few other countries that said, we're out. India backed off for a minute. These are interesting things. So while all these other countries are backing away, it's not that they're backing away on some moral issue. They're backing away on the issue of like, maybe we can get those javelins cheaper down the block, and maybe we can get them from America or whoever over here. That's how the war is about. It's not actually really about this. It's definitely, there's a money to be made. But what happened is that Putin decided, he thought that people were going to fall in line and he'd get the land and he'd also get these, more money and help China make its move to whatever. But once the sanctions came in and cut that down, that slowed down even the efforts. If China had the thought to go, well, gee, maybe I'll go into Taiwan. Well, now they don't know because they can't even like, can you get us this stuff? Because they shut your shit down. So why that strategy is important to understand. There's, even Kazakhstan was one of their second biggest purchasers. And remember, Kazakhstan burned him early in the beginning, like, no, we're not doing this. You've got to remember that in World War II, there was a really horrific thing with which Putin's strategy at the point right now, to me, I was on my hike the other day and I started thinking about when the Third Reich went into Greece and how their strategy was because it's some distance. You're dealing with a distance for bombing and attacking. So the strategy there was to starve people to death. And I mean, they had hundreds of thousands of Greek people who just were walking down the street and dropping dead. They were starving, and many were so had so much respect and honor for their country that they wouldn't even dare come out and let people know that they were starving. These are strategies that were implemented by Germany, who was thousands of miles away from Greece. Now, Putin, who Russia is literally right next door to Ukraine, is already trying to implement that kind of strategy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And it's next door. It's like, dude, bitch, people aren't even that far away. And you've had to go to plan C for another continent. I mean, what the hell? So he has no other alternatives but to threaten with nuclear because he has no other options. He's not that. His people are so used to bootlicking and not being honest with him. That is why they are costing him, because they're not honest and go, yo, this is not the best strategy.
Aisha, final comments. We're going to move on.
Well, here's the really odd thing about it was that Putin went in thinking that Ukrainians would identify themselves as being Russian. They consider themselves European. Ever since the fall of the USSR, they've considered themselves European. That's why they're, and I think one of the things that he was trying to avoid was Ukraine trying to join the European Union. And all he did was expedite that process. He didn't stop it. He just expedited it. And so give it a few months and Ukraine will be a European country.
All right. Some comments before we move on to the next conversation. Christina says he is a scary man and this is calculated. I think we are underestimating him. This has been mapped out long before we even considered this.
I would agree if they didn't bungle this whole thing so bad. Because think about it. This flagship that we're talking about was their biggest naval vessel. Okay,
right.
It's at the bottom of the Indian Ocean or whatever ocean that is. It's at the bottom. So I don't think it's going to happen that way.
Not all Black Beauty saying not all Americans are out here campaigning for Ukraine. That Zelensky is to me problematic on many levels in stirring the pot of propaganda.
But the propaganda is coming from Russia.
I know.
Dana saying, okay, Aisha, take us through the paces, but history shows that the USA is at the foundation of shady arms deals.
I think I covered the thing think about Russia. Russia has arms deals as well.
Yeah, but think about it. I mean, we can all remember Iran-Contra, right? And then we were at war with Iran. So we've done shady deals, but remember, our shady deals are always at the mercy of which political party is in power.
Right. Okay. Iraq, Russia sold to as well.
Exactly. Remember, all that happened under the first President Bush and Reagan.
Right.
When you have Democrats in office, they try to roll that stuff back, but the damage is already done. I think we've had shady arms deals, but you got to remember those arms deals are always at the protection of our military overseas.
But I mean, when people talk, I thought you were done.
Go ahead. It's always at the the protection of our military overseas. And if we have an interest in, it's always been for us, the oil, and it's always been for our Republican Party about the oil. So that's what those arms deals are about. But when you have, I mean, for example, you talk about our issues with like Cuba, right? I mean, honestly, we had this arms relationship with Cuba, and then put sanctions on them.
We
I
could
think
put them literally, like, think about this. In 40 years, Russia could be Cuba.
right.
We could do that. That's what we do.
And remember, our shady
second time,
like our shady deals happen when these countries that ask for the weapons offer to become an ally. It's not our fault that they then shift once they get them and like turn our own weapons on us. And truth be told, Putin doesn't really want Ukraine. He wants war with America. He's hoping that America gets in this
to destroy the West.
Right, because for him, the ultimate fight would be between Russia and America. And he's not going to get what he wants. I think that's the main reason why Joe Biden's holding out.
And that's why I've always said, if you look at his Rasputin, modern day Rasputin, Alexander Dugin, and if you get a chance to read any of his takes on Russia against America, you will understand very clearly that this is personal, and it really isn't just about what's being portrayed. It's an ego thing and destroying the West.
But I'm trying to figure out where this propaganda is coming from, because we actually have news people on the ground reporting, talking to people directly. Putin has no people there. He's making stuff up. I mean, he's literally telling his people that they're winning when at every stop there's a failure.
Okay. So Black Beauty says, talk about history. Those Ukrainian territories are Russia's, and per the original treaty belong to Russia.
So was Hawaii. So was America.
To include the fact that NATO keeps extending near the Russian border.
Wait, well, I just want to say to that, we have a town here that was founded in California by Russia. They wanted it back. Should we give it to them? I don't know. When you start to, make sense
about the whole United States. You're talking about Russia, France, England, Spain. If that's the case, then the United States doesn't own the United States, because those original treaties give parcels of land to other countries.
They've been so oppressive. Just look at all, like Dostoevsky. Read that.
Okay,
read
Aisha. So Black Beauty is also saying, Aisha, Democrats were the first party to allow slavery. Unfortunately, both parties, Republicans and Democrats, are ineffectively leading the U.S. down the slippery slope of disaster.
Let's be clear about the Democrats being the first party to have slavery. Is that was not the modern Democratic Party. That was the
Whig Party. The Whigs.
It was flooded by carpetbaggers, Whigs, and Dixiecrats. Okay, so there is a reason why the Dixiecrats left the Democratic Party and flooded the Republican Party and became the party of the Dixiecrats. So I mean, let's be clear. Let's be clear about it.
Be clear.
The two parties have switched platforms. The two parties switched platforms 60 years ago. So to say that, well, the Democratic Party was this and that, well, then guess what? The Republican Party was the abolitionist party, but now they want to enslave us, take our voting rights away, take away, have us fearing the police every time we walk out of our house. So, I mean, it goes both ways. And yes, both parties have had shady deals. However, if you look back on modern history, and I'm talking about the last 60 years, Republicans have been the party that has been warmongers.
And oppressive to Black people and people of color in this country. Because, and
to be honest, remember that the first Black voters were Republicans because it was the party of Lincoln, not because of the policies that they had. That's why you now there are some Black Republicans who were Republicans like in the early 60s and stayed. But for the most part, when the Republican Party started opening up and passing the laws like the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments,
they defected.
That is when, and allowing Black people into the fold, that is when the Dixiecrats left. Because remember, the Dixiecrats were segregation now, segregation forever. That was that party. I mean, take Strom Thurmond, for example, who was a longtime senator from South Carolina. He started out as a Democrat, then became a Dixiecrat when he ran for president in 48. He didn't run as a Democrat. He ran as a Dixiecrat, formed another party. And then when he lost, became a Republican.
Right.
So the same people that were in the Democratic Party in those early years are now Republican.
All right, let's move on. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas announces deals with 2 more Mexican governors to halt Texas's vehicle inspections at the border. Jill, you wanted to talk about this one.
Well, it's kind of proving that Abbott has been behind the delay of all of their products in the supply chain. He kind of opened up the door that revealed that he has been the one stopping it. And none too pleased were his own constituents, who he's walking a very fine line. His numbers are really, really super low at the moment. And Beto released something today, just sort of proving how he's been so going in behind with these truckers, and they've been letting food rot. They've been letting, people take the hit and pay outrageous amounts of money for things. And because he's been colluding to bring down parts of his government, which in my opinion, he should be removed from office. I've been saying this for years. This person has put other people's welfare at stake. And this is now, just in the food chain. This is horrible. This is actually a betrayal to his people. More, because this is just about your food and about your livelihood, your oil, your basic human needs. I mean, that should be something like, what isn't off limits to you, bitch? I mean, you have a duty to all constituents. And those are the people that we want, in office, that you can set aside and pick the battles that you want to, but, not at the part of like, wow, he's just got some mad mental problems. That I think there's something wrong. I've always said there's something wrong with him. And that, when that tree hit him, something else happened.
Look, somebody who can't drive, he's got a lot to say about drivers.
Okay? I know, right? He relies on somebody to cart his ass around.
Exactly. And remember, this is what is so ridiculous about it, is that he's starving people as a campaign strategy.
Wow.
Who
really?
I mean, because I'm guessing he's
right.
thinking, I guess his shot here is that, hungry people will vote for, the person that is going to promise them, to get. And here's the thing, the truck stops are artificial. They're checking lights, they're checking oil.
Right.
It's like, what gives you the right to do that? Because remember, we get a lot of produce from Mexico. Let's be honest. We get a lot of produce from Mexico. Where do you think all of our avocados come from, people? Come on.
But if he's so hell-bent on destroying Biden's reputation, does that mean they're allowing drugs to come in as well? I mean, what is he doing? Where does he draw the line? He has no honor, and he's
they're not even checking for drugs.
Yeah, but I'm saying, even if they did, he doesn't care. It would be, let him go. Let's just let this thing become a hellhole so that people vote Republican. This is a problem for me. He sent homeless people to Washington, D.C. Okay, that's petty and it's childish, and it isn't the first time it's been done in America. They send a lot of homeless people actually on buses from back east to here in California. We know that. We've been new. But the reality is he is now collecting people from the border and driving them to D.C. Isn't that kind of trafficking people too? I mean, and left them there and left them. So, these people are doing some really you know, they're elected officials and they make a good salary a year. I mean, why are they there?
He's a
Contain
coward.
yourself, man. You know, get a hold of you, get a grip.
He's a coward. If he was really bad about it, he would be checking those trucks for trafficking of humans, for drugs. But no, they're checking to make sure your battery's charged to the right level. Come on, how nitpicky is that? And again, this is someone who can't drive, who's sitting here making these decisions.
Okay, here I got to address a thing about the Bill Gates thing, because I really can't take this much more. You know, you don't have to agree with everything we say, but Christina was like, I think the major point is the United States has done things that are not right. Example being the testing we allowed in India that was funded in 1993 by Bill Gates. There's been funding everywhere. I don't know, what did the propaganda train come and take our audience? I mean, because it really sure looks like it. These are discussions that we've had a million times, and
but here's the point.
I don't know. It's very annoying.
Bill Gates is not a politician. He is a private citizen. Okay, so that argument falls through when you acknowledge the fact that Bill Gates is not a politician. It's the politicians that are the problem. The people who vote on and make our laws being bought by Russia.
I am so happy that DuckDuckGo has decided to get rid of all these independent news places. Yeah, it's very, very nice. Everybody else should follow suit. It's a lot.
I mean, think about this 2016 election. In the House elections, the Senate elections, and the presidential, Russia aided that party. Period. Full stop. There is not, you can't say the same thing about the Democratic Party.
Hell, he gave $10 million to Marie Le Pen in France, Russia. This is somebody hell-bent on taking it back, where y'all keep believing Russia hasn't done some bad things and gives a damn about Black people will be incarcerated and shut down and in the gulag as fast as you can say my full name.
And think about it, the reason that even now Trump won't say anything against Putin is because he's still trying to get that Trump hotel in Russia.
And it's funny how he's setting his time that he's going to leave when Brittany Griner is supposed to have her test, her legal trial. You know, this is a very bad human being.
And I know Christina's saying, but Bill Gates funds the Democratic Party, not by himself. Not by himself.
She's talking about the testing, like the vaccines, that whole everybody in their vaccine trip.
Right. But not only that, but
I mean, I've worked on accounts that we created vaccines. Okay.
Right.
It's done. There are agreements. Read before you learn the full detail. Because most of the stuff that's being reported about it is absolute bullshit.
But here's the thing, Christina. Bill Gates cannot provide more money than any other individual just because he's rich. There is a cap, period, for individuals. So, and that cap is not very high. It's like what, $3,800 for the entire duration of the campaign.
Right.
So it's not like he's putting $3.8 million into.
He didn't create a super PAC, right?
Exactly. He might do it with individuals, but with individual people, you can only donate up to $3,800. And that is the law. That's the election law, period. Right. So, I mean, he's not funding it any more than any of us are as individuals.
Okay, let's move on. This has been, it continues to be a great conversation. The comments are still coming on the side, but I want to move forward because we eventually got to end on
just one thing.
Okay.
Black Beauty saying there's no concrete proof that Russia aided the USA elections. Yes, there were. That is what Mueller found out in his report. Period. Full stop.
Right.
That was the whole point of the Mueller report. And Mueller said there was credible evidence that Russia had interfered in our election. Not only that, but the FBI, CIA have all testified to that. So there is proof. It's not like there's no proof.
But clearly, Black Beauty doesn't believe in the FBI or everybody else. Clearly, it looks like that road has been chosen.
if we didn't have, I mean, if we didn't have that kind of knowledge, then what the hell are we functioning in this world for? Because we would not be considered a superpower if we didn't have that kind of knowledge.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on. Let's go. So let's go on to, and ladies, last conversation topic. Elon Musk offers to buy Twitter, and I know now Twitter's put a sort of like a poison pill counter to this. Thoughts on Elon Musk wanting to buy Twitter?
Well, the whole thing is that Twitter is a publicly traded company now. So when you're publicly traded, you have to abide by certain rules and regulations. He wants to make Twitter private again. So that means that they can let all kinds of people like Donald Trump back on Twitter. And Twitter is full of enough racists that I don't think we need anymore. Yeah. So, I mean, Elon Musk, here's the other thing. He offers to buy it, but they're still trying to figure out how he's going to get all the money to buy it.
True.
It's like, to me, that's not even a real offer. He doesn't have, it's like not like he has a stock portfolio and coming with them and saying, hey, these are all my investors. We're going to buy. No, he just put that out there because he was put on the board. And now he doesn't even have the controlling interest anymore in order to even make that happen. So it's not going to happen.
Go ahead.
He considered it for a few days because he had that 51% controlling interest. He doesn't anymore. His controlling interest is now like 47%. So,
Jill, I know you'll have something to say about this one.
No, it actually is pretty tame today. I mean, everything Aisha said on the money, it's really true that's exactly what's happening. But there's also another aspect that's going on in his world with not just his space stuff, because we know that Bezos has come in and is doing some pretty remarkable things as well. But Elon has to pay attention, I guess, a little bit to even look at what Mercedes is doing as far as with battery operated cars. I mean, they actually have a car now that will go it's down to 8 kilowatts, which per mile. So what's crazy about that is that's lower than Tesla's 25 or whatever it is. So that means it can go further distance. And that's been the biggest problem with these batteries. We know that the battery in a Tesla, you could only drive from really here to, maybe San Francisco, which is 400 miles, 500, and that's it. But this new situation that Mercedes, if you watch some of the cars that they're not even in production yet, but just follow them a lot, you'll see they're doing some incredible things, and the cars look freaking beaueful. They're
trying to have like the 1,000-mile batteries. That's what they're working.
They think they do have it, but I think that what I'm saying is I think that he has exposed himself up where to the minds of greater talent and greater ability. This Elon Musk doesn't seem like the type of person who he's only got a few balls that he can juggle. Because it sure doesn't sit around and make people think that he's sitting around thinking things other than just sort of, crapping out some crazy comment or some crazy expletive or some, the other day, what did he say that his girlfriend uses a dildo on him? And, it's just repulsive things that you go, oh my God, you're going to give this kind of guy more power. It's a lot. It's like, dude, you're almost 50. Grow up.
Here's what I can't understand. How the hell is he the richest man in the world when no one can afford them damn cars?
People can get the cars, but they recalled, which is interesting. What, 250,000 of them recently?
I believe
there was a huge recall. So we don't really know what his bottom line is at the moment. So he just needs to find something else to do. And as a grifter, align himself with somebody else, which would probably be the Trump Republican angle. I mean, we've got to stop some of these foreign rich people coming in and kind of dominating everything in America. I think that didn't Canada stop people from foreign people can't buy houses there.
Yeah,
at the
they're starting to crack down in regards because
it has to stop.
What's happening
We
a
need to
lot
do
in
the
Canada
same.
is that we have a housing crisis basically here in Canada. A lot of it is foreign people buying, foreigners, people not Canadian citizens, buying up properties and selling and like renting them, etc. Where there's hundreds of thousands of Canadians who would like to buy a home, can't because of the shortage of supply, which again drives up the market price for homes. So they're starting
again,
to.
I still have the same question. Who's affording these cars?
Well, I see more and more.
I'm car shopping right now, right?
I see more and more people buying them.
I saw a Jeep for $89,000 and I literally passed out.
How much?
Because the cars, period, are expensive.
People are just leasing them. You know, that's pretty much you lease and then you just turn them in. That's, you know, kind of what it is. Everything is kind of temporary. And with working from home or doing whatever, I mean, people seem to be leasing the cars. I don't think I know anybody who's actually buying a car.
I don't think that companies are allowing people to buy the way that they used to. That's why they hike the prices up so much so that the lease can cost like $700-800. To me, the fact that your car note costs as much as your rent,
absolutely, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, so Black View saying Elon Musk, another distraction for the uninformed American audience.
What is the distraction? I have a question. What's a distraction for uninformed? What does that mean? That sounds actually really antagonistic, because some people find Elon Musk's life and what he's contributing to this country actually interesting, Black Beauty. Some people do. And to be honest with you, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's a distraction. Just because you don't understand how it plays into every different thing in our country that's connected doesn't mean that you're right. These talking points that, you know, are coming from that side of the aisle with you are incredibly headed down the right winger side for me.
Well, think about it.
And I don't like the egregious feeling of feeling a little bit attacked.
Elon Musk is not a distraction
because of our topic. If you don't like it,
I mean, he's not a distraction for the uninformed American audience that he's a distraction to are on the right, because they're the people who listened to him when he gave this misinformation about COVID. Okay. He's not, I mean, yeah, he is a distraction for the uninformed American people, but remember what uninformed American people he is attracted to. And those are the people who vote on the basis of their religion, not on public policy. They vote on their racism. They vote on, oh, I like Donald Trump because I'd like to have a beer with him. Those people. The other people are pretty well informed and have Elon Musk's number, which is why so many people on Twitter are against him trying to buy it.
Okay. I think we'll call it an afternoon.
Okay.
It's been quite the afternoon. So ladies, thank you as always for taking time at a different time today.
And by the way, Mueller does have receipts. You should buy the book and read it. I did. I have the book. Pretty outstanding. It was the American government that didn't want to use those receipts. So let's just
because those receipts pointed at the president.
Yes, it did. And that's been the biggest concern about how will America stand when they have to go and arrest the first president that they've ever needed to. It's definitely been a conundrum.
What happened was Barr got out in front of.
He's worse than Nixon. The shame
he got
of
out
Nixon.
in front of it to say that there was. Barr was the one who gave the misinformation, saying that there was no evidence.
Good book, by the way. Bill Barr's book, very interesting. And if you didn't think that Russia wasn't kind of involved, read his book.
Yeah, because Bill Barr actually tells everything that he should have told when he was Attorney General.
And go
ask Manafort why his ass can't fly out of the country. That doesn't mean, because there you go right there. Thank you. That was his campaign manager. Russia had a lot to do with this fucking thing. Don't even try to play that it didn't.
Well, remember,
Educate yourselves.
Manafort has
keep a book, a cheat sheet,
taking money from Russia.
People actually fucking forget.
Him
I can't believe it.
Who's that other? The military guy was the other one.
Flynn.
Oliver Flynn.
General Flynn, yeah.
General Flynn.
People actually have such a short memory in this country. It's actually shocking to me. I keep an actual
because
book.
Barack Obama warned.
I have a diagram in one of my rooms, a diagram that connects everybody. Come on.
I mean, and remember that Obama warned Trump. He told Trump, you need to fire him because of his affiliation with Russia. And Trump saw that as his way in.
All right. We're done.
All right.
Final comments. Cite Black women, Dana says, hashtag. Jana says, great conversation. Christina says, have a good evening, ladies. Great conversation as always. And it was. Man, I don't know, maybe Axon once we may have to do
2 hours here.
Base for taking their time out of their positive productive schedule so they can have an evening now. So, well, Jill have an afternoon and an evening.
I know.
So as always, we want to say thank you so much, and they're going to share their contact information. So first off, we're going to go to Jill Jones.
There it is, Jill D. Jones, or to my Twitter. No, to my Instagram, Jill Jones Music.
Wonderful. And then we go to Aisha K. Staggers.
There it is. It's at Aisha Staggers on Twitter, or you can find me on Instagram at AK Staggers.
Wonderful. And for myself, if you want to get a hold of me, there's all the deets. The only thing I left out, I think, is I left out my Twitter, so I got to adjust that. But there's the website, email, Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitter is at drvibeshow.com. I'd like to thank everyone who stopped by. I know we're not at 9 o'clock today, but I have a feeling people are going to say, oh, what happened at 9 o'clock? Or I may pre-record something and say, hey, we're not on. We were on at 1 o'clock today. Don't check the replay. Right. But that is all good. So as always, you can catch the replays of our epic conversations on my website, the drvibeshow.com, or YouTube, The Dr. Vibe Show, Facebook, The Dr. Vibe Show, and encourage you to subscribe to The Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and Facebook so you can get notified when we have these epic conversations and other epic conversations that I host. Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m., Black Canada Talking, where I showcase Black Canadians that give their POVs and takes on things going on in Canada and around the world. And Monday and Friday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, the Morning Vibe with myself and co-host Ryan Knight, where we do just whole epic conversations, mainly with Black Canadians, but also people all around. So we're going to close off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Oh, I'll leave my two last thing. Black Beauty says, I still love you guys. And then Dana says, thank you all. So as I say, remember to give yourselves grace. And remember, as always, too, don't just manage your time. Also manage your energy. So next week, we'll be back at our regularly scheduled time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. God bless. Peace to you all. Keep the faith and walk good. Take care, everybody.